Okay, we are live.
Hello there. Thank you for joining us. This is the Ruddi Bruce broadcast. You focus on the truth. I focus on the facts. People of Canada, your voice will speak a million strong. If we come together and fight what's going on, we got homeless people living in tents. Be compassionate, do not judge, because 200,000 of us are using food banks. Where's the pride? Where's the pride? Where's our money we slave for? They cover it up. The working man is living poor. Ruddi has true leadership, speaking for the ones who are tired of this shit. Make the government officials get a grip, or everyone loses the respect. Something's wrong, open your eyes. They tell us lies, you're blinded to this and mowing your lawn. United, we stand, divided, we fall. The time will come, the day is near, we will all march. So listen with your ears, we are not zombies or fresh meat. Let's grind up the government, make compost for the maple trees. Let's avenge the deaths of the ones who have fallen. Coronavirus, opioids, we're still trying. They thought they got away scot-free. We will get the last laugh. Just wait and see. These talks we have on the broadcast will provide and guide. Let's do it fast. Taxpayers believe we live strong and free. Everyone does. Are you kidding me? Round of applause to you and yours for tuning in. We're opening doors. This is the real movement, people. Let's stand up, Canada, before we lose.
Good evening, and welcome back to the broadcast. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to get that ironed out here. So just bear with me. We're going to do some digging around here, but we're going to get to everything in just a minute. So just bear with me, because we've got a guest coming in, and he's having trouble with his computer, and we got to get him in here. So we will do that. So first of all, we're going to make sure that everything is up and running here, so that everybody is on. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube at the same time. So This is the first broadcast we've done with StreamYard. So we got a few kinks to iron out. But we'll get them ironed out. And we will carry on with the broadcast. So just bear with me. I'm going to make sure that everything is up and running, which I believe it is. Okay. Okay, we're on YouTube. And we're going to share that to Facebook just to give you the Facebook channel. So the Facebook channel and the Facebook page is all now publicized on Facebook. Yeah, here. No, that is Facebook. Okay. So I'm a one-man show here today, ladies and gentlemen, so you got to bear with me. The sound is good, I hope. The sound, yeah, sound is good. Okay. Okay, so the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel are all up and running, right? Okay. Good. Now, we'll get this a little bit in line here. Now, one thing you've got to do is share this out, guys. Hi, Connie. And hi, Sherry, I think it is. Sherry, how you doing? Connie, how you doing? I believe there's one. I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying to figure a little bit of this out here. Okay, this is off there. Now, there should have been one shared to Facebook. Okay, there it is there. Okay, so Facebook is up. Sorry. YouTube has been shared to Facebook. Okay. So you have a share in there from the YouTube channel onto Facebook. In order to get that live, you just got to click onto that. Okay. And so we have the live on Facebook, and there's a live going on YouTube. So we have two things going on. Now, I've got comments coming in from Facebook. Good evening, everyone. Doreen says hi. And Cheryl says hi. How you doing? We're going to give this a few minutes because we're just getting started. And my guest is having a little trouble with getting into the studio. So he's working on that right now as we speak. And I also want to mention that I have a little infection in my chest. So I may be coughing from time to time. You're going to have to bear with me. I'll try to keep that down to a minimum. We have a big show for you tonight. This is the first part. Excuse me. This is the first part of a 4-part series regarding the Freedom Convoy and what went wrong. And before I came on, I noticed that Rebel News, has done a big splash about how much of a hero Tamara Leach is and everything else like that. It's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Because that's not my opinion. Okay. Neither is Chris Barber a big hero. And we're going to get into these details with you. And I'm going to do this, like I said, in a 4-part series because I can't cram everything into one show. So there's 4 shows, this one and 3 more. And these people are all going to be coming in to explain their side of what happened and how it all went down, how it all took place, and the whole shebang. Okay. So it's going to be very interesting. Now, I am going to ask all of you to be respectful. I don't mind your questions. I don't mind your comments, but I want everybody to be respectful because of the nature of this. A lot of people put their heart and soul into this movement, and a lot of Canadians as well. Okay, we had Canadians standing on the highways and on the overpasses, and it was a huge thing for Canada for what happened. So there's a lot to cover, and we're going to get into this. And I still don't see my guest coming in yet, but I will explain. We will explain everything in a very professional manner and why things went the way they did. I will mention the one thing, though, that when the convoy went to Ottawa, the convoy did not go to Ottawa to have a beef with the cops. That wasn't the intention of sending a convoy to Ottawa. Under no circumstances did the freedom movement go to undergo like a beat down by police. Okay, we're not in that or in this movement to go and confront police officers. Okay, that's not our intentions. This is a peaceful movement. Always has been. Well, it should have always stayed that way. I'm not condoning in these broadcasts. I'm not condoning the actions of the government. And far from it. Okay. Before the convoy left for Ottawa, both times there was 2 convoys, by the way, and I was a part of both of those convoys as far as promoting and being somewhat involved. And where was my train of thought here? When the convoy went the first time, it was hijacked. I'll explain the first one a little bit here, buy some time. It was hijacked because it was not called, to begin with, oil and gas. It was called the Yellow Vest convoy. And the arrangement with the Yellow Vest, or the thing with the Yellow Vest, was that it was a grievance regarding the corruption of a government. It was hijacked by some individuals and turned into a thing called oil and gas. It was headed by a gentleman by the name of Glenn Carrot. And he was quite the character, because in one of his speeches on the Hill there, he refused to wear his yellow vest. Yellow vest was a sign of unity amongst the people, and he didn't want to do that. He thought that just putting on an ordinary coat and so on was the thing to do. That wasn't a sign of unity. And that's what that convoy was all about. It was a sign of unity. It was supposed to be a sign of unity. But it didn't turn out that way. They turned the narrative of that convoy into oil and gas, which had nothing to do with the grievance of a corrupt government. Needless to say, that was the hijack of the first convoy. Now, a second convoy went to Ottawa. It was huge. It was probably the biggest convoy you're ever going to see going to Ottawa. And before it left, going to Ottawa, there was roughly almost $20 million in the account. And I phoned certain individuals, Pat King, Chris Barber, Martin Brazeau, and a number of others, and told them that I will promote that convoy on the condition that Peter Turner is at the top of the table, is at the head of the table. Okay, not that he was going to take over the convoy, but he was going to give firm directive as to logistics of the convoy. And the reason for that was because Peter Turner is an experienced professional lobbyist, and he already had ties in with the government, and he knew what he was doing. It wasn't his first rodeo regarding doing a massive demonstration. The reason for that was because if we were going to, it was taking an enormous size, this convoy, okay? It was going to be the biggest. I seen that coming, and it had to be done properly. We didn't want another hijack of a convoy. It was a very serious topic at the time because, as you remember, it was regarding the COVID era and the jabs and what the damage was being done to people by taking these they're not called, in my opinion, a vaccine. They're a biological weapon. And they were destroying lives. The government's mandates were destroying lives. They were telling people, you either take this or walk away from your job. Well, that was horrendous because these biological weapons had never been tested properly. They were inflicted onto the public, and something that is still going on today. So they were a danger to humanity, and they were a danger to families, because if you took one and you died as a result of it, you were done. And that's what happened to some people, in fact a lot of people, that once they took this, they died, or they had some kind of bad reaction to taking it. This was not a good thing. So this was the main function that was driving the convoy to go to Ottawa, because now they were inflicting this into telling truckers if they were going to cross the border that they had to have this done. And that was enough. Okay, that's when it started to become something huge. So I made my phone calls and I started promoting the convoy along with many others. I wasn't the only one promoting this convoy. There was many others. It was a very organic thing that took place, and it was going to be big because of what the government was pushing on the public. It wasn't fair at all. Now, in all of this stuff that was going on, the government, Mr. Trudeau, was being a real jerk off. Okay. I mean, this was absurd what he was trying to push onto Canadians, and the whole 9 yards. There we go. The whole 9 yards of this was absolutely absurd. Okay. It was the first time, and it was, I mean, of this nature that it took this kind of thing going on, and it was absolutely horrendous. So it sparked a lot of feelings in a lot of Canadians, and this one had to work. This convoy had to go and had to take place, and it had to work. So, well, I think we've got an iron worked out here. We're going to try this. I'm now going to bring in to you Mr. Peter Turner. Where are we here? There we go. Hey,
I fixed it. Yes, finally fixed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Peter Turner.
G'day, people. How are y'all doing? This is going to be a fascinating run on how something that was so needed went so wrong.
Oh, Peter, can you introduce yourself and tell the public what all about yourself? Let's start.
Back in 2000, I took a hit. My company took a hit for $70,000 from a load broker going broke.
Mm-hmm.
So I quit trucking, sold my 3 trucks, trailers, everything, got out of the business. I then was approached by some people to speak on as a driver on the hours of service to the Senate subcommittee, which I did. I then joined a group called the CCMTA, the Canadian Council for Motor Transportation, which I didn't know at the time, but found out later that is owned by the Canadian Trucking Alliance. The meetings that I attended, they were very, very ignorant. They were very condescending. Basically, they just ignored me. Some of the meetings that I had with them, that I met with them, it was a joke. Not one of the provinces would come within 10 feet of me, to talk to me about anything. So there was a big CCMTA meeting here in Ottawa, and I'd had enough of the bullshit. So I turned around and at their big meeting and said, point of order. They gave me my point of order. I told them, I said, if you guys pass this the way it's written, the way it is, you pass it into law, I will tie it up for the next 10 years in court. 2 days later, Brian O'Brien from Transport Canada called me, and we got 10 different things changed in the hours of service to benefit the truck drivers. Okay. I was the only one there, nobody else. Since then, I had a law passed here in Ontario. It's called Carriage for Hire. And that is anyone who buys or sells loads within Ontario or has Ontario authority must have a trust account. Monies must be placed into trust account until paid. So we've done a lot of collections. So I started this group because I saw a need that somebody needed to stand up and call these politicians and the Canadian Trucking Alliance, the OTA, the APTA, all them clowns. Those are the guys that screwed up our system and continue to. So I called
basically you became a lobbyist.
Yeah, I became an advocate first, and then I became a lobbyist after I saw there was this need. And I guess my attitude or my personality is that, you lie to me, I'm coming after you. You treat me like shit, I don't care who you are. I will come after you. A lot of politicians found that out. GM, Ford, Chrysler found that out. Tembak Domtar found that out. The Port of Vancouver found out that, you can't just keep doing the bullshit that you're doing.
Yeah, we're getting some noise interference that's coming up in the chat. I wonder, is it, I'm not sure. How about that? Try that. See from there.
Okay, how's that now?
That's
Still there. Still
try
there.
that. Try that. See,
So, I may have my volume too loud.
maybe. I don't know.
I have no idea. Let
This
me
is the
turn it
first
down.
time. This is the first time we've gone into this system here for a while.
Okay.
I've been on it before, but Peter is the first time.
Yeah,
Let's
so
try that.
anyways, after all that, like Tembeck and Domtar were ripping the loggers off, got them a 40% increase, got them a fuel surcharge, which everybody gets nowadays because of the GM truckers that decided to shut GM, Ford, and Chrysler down, and that's how we got them back to work, was coming up with a fuel surcharge.
Okay, your volume might be still a little too high. Try that. Turn it down a little.
Okay, how's that?
Now
I'm getting some interference from somewhere.
you're getting interference.
Yeah. Put me on hold there for a second and I'll see if my wife's on her phone.
Actually, you sound good. You sound good now.
Okay. So, anyways,
I don't know.
I've gone from the East Coast to the West Coast. We shut down 700 aggregate trucks in New Brunswick. We got them a fuel surcharge, got them a 38% increase in rates, plus, all this stuff. And I mean, it's not that hard to get. It's just truckers can't do it on their own. They need somebody who is not in the industry, but understands how the industry actually works and what goes behind the scenes. I've been a dispatcher. I've been an owner-op. I've been an independent. My last stint was an independent. My fault for allowing this load broker to get that far into me, but we came out on top. I didn't lose any money, so well, the 70 grand I lost, but we made it all back.
So you basically have handled big demonstrations before.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. So let's carry on a little bit further. Now we know you're a lobbyist and you've done some big stuff before. Now, did you ever lose any cases, like lose any big demonstrations?
No, never.
To the point of
no, I never even had the cops
like
come after me, the government come after me. Nobody. Okay. There is a way to do it. I mean, you take 700 aggregate trucks and park them all throughout New Brunswick. Not a truck moved for almost 2-3 weeks. Mm-hmm. We got meetings with the ministers. We with the Minister of Transport at that time. I think it was Landry or something like that. But I did my homework. Right. Like when I go into these big shutdowns that I've done a cost analysis on every piece of equipment. You name it, I've figured it all out and I've come up with the numbers. It's how we shut down the logging industry. We said, this is what's going on. And, we did our cost analysis thing. This is what it costs to do the job.
Okay. So let's go forward a bit more here. So I phoned you.
Yeah.
When the convoy started to pick up some steam. And I asked you if you would be interested in helping out with the convoy, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then I phoned Pat King. I phoned Chris Barber. I phoned them all, most of them, and told them about you and that you were willing to help out. Now,
at no fee.
Okay.
All my connections I was willing to put on the line for these people.
Right.
And my own reputation.
Right. Now, as you recall, they strung us along up until the day
they showed up in the Empire. Yeah.
Right. Go ahead. Take it from there, Peter. What happened?
Well, I drove up, talked to Tamara, and I said, this is who I am. You can check me on the internet. My website's there. Everything's there. You can see who I am and what I've done. I said, the way you are talking right now, everybody knows that you're coming to park. And you can't do that. It's against the law. I said, what you're doing is, I first asked, did you set up any meetings? No. Who did you contact before you got here? Nobody. Mm-hmm. Well, how are you supposed to resolve an issue? You say you have the evidence, and I believe they did. I really
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
You don't have scientists and doctors who are willing to put their careers on the line for this. Okay.
Mhm.
So I believed in what they had to say.
Mhm.
But I said, if you're coming here to just park and create a kafus, I said, that's never going to work. Nobody will talk to you.
Mhm.
And I'm going, if you've got some proof, give it to me. I will make sure that the right people get it.
Mhm.
And and I said, plus I says, well, I says, if you have the proof, why isn't that the lawyers you've hired not filed an injunction to the jab?
Mhm.
Because they had if the proof was there, and I know it wasn't tested on any humans, this was just a whole bunch of shit thrown in and saying, here, let's hope it works.
Mhm.
That's illegal in this country. They have to run their tests, and they didn't do it. Trudeau allowed it to happen. And I said, why not just file an injunction? That would put everything to a grinding halt where they couldn't do that anymore.
Where were the trucks at that time when you met them?
We were at the Antrim truck stop.
Okay, but that wasn't all of them. They
No,
had
no, no,
some
no,
going.
no. They were all still trailing in when I got there, but they had all kinds of different places to park.
Okay.
The people, the owner of the Antrim truck stop, I know, was very good. He was so accommodating. I mean, even after a while, I think it was the second week, he got a friend of his that has a farm field. He had it plowed. He had washrooms put in, all that stuff, so the guys could go park down there. And of course, they had an Ottawa cop sitting there, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Little out of his jurisdiction, but okay. um, Now, when they hit Ottawa, you know, there was no organization. I mean, nobody. See, when I do my shutdowns, like with CN, CP, I mean, all these places I've shut down, it's my last resort.
Mhm.
Tried to talk to everybody, and um, my thing is to keep the politicians out of it because they just do nothing but screw it up.
Mhm.
Fortunately, this is where you needed the politicians to hear. And I was, I know a lot of them. I have access to them, and we could have resolved this whole issue. Okay, but I honestly believe at that time they were coming here to pick a fight and did not want to solve anything.
So what happened when you started talking? You were talking specifically to who was it?
Tamara,
And also
no,
Pat
that's the only
King?
one I talked to.
Was
Pat was
just
off somewhere else, so
you didn't talk to Pat King?
no, no. I only talked to Pat King through his messenger thing there.
Okay.
And when he kept telling everybody how to get around all this stuff, I kept telling him. I said, "Listen, knock it off. You're
Uh-huh.
going to jail, buddy. Plain and simple. You can't be doing what you're doing.
Right.
You have
So
pissed you have pissed off the residents, which I have never done in any city or town I've been in.
Mhm.
I've had the backing of the citizens. If you don't have the backing of the citizens in the town that you're demonstrating in,
Mhm.
guess what? It's over.
Yeah.
And now all these people are facing civil lawsuits. And I mean, where are they to help? Where's the money to help protect these people who are only following you?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
what was her reaction to you? What was the outcome of you and her
he
having
said,
the
"Nope, nope, we've got it all under control, and we won't need your services." Not
so
a
that
problem.
she flatly turned you down?
Oh yeah. And then I told her, I said, "Listen, if you're doing what I think you're going to be doing, you're going to jail. Plain
Mhm.
and simple.
Mhm.
You're going to go to jail. No ifs, buts, or ands, because you can't do what you say you're going to do.
Mhm.
They won't allow it."
Mhm.
Okay. So you've been fairly warned. And I walked away. Now I had the RCMP, CSIS, RCMP, OPP, Ottawa Police all show up at my house because they all know what I do.
Yeah.
Because I've been in touch with all of them over the years, so they
Yeah.
they know exactly who I am. They all showed up at my door and said, "Are you part of this?" I said, "No." I said, "These clowns don't have a clue what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do any prep work before they got here.
Mm-hmm.
They did nothing."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and that's the problem. Everybody knew they were coming. Nobody knew why. Now it did start out. Apparently, it did start out as corruption in Parliament. Okay, politicians are corrupt. Yeah, I've proven that many times, but that's okay. They're immune from prosecution, so which is unfortunately that's the way the government is set up.
So she basically, after you talking to her, how long did you talk to her?
Oh, maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And then after that, she just
walked away.
Walked away. That was it.
Walked away. And I said, well, you know what? You're on your own. Do what you got to do. But I'm telling you, you're going to jail.
Did you ever run into did you ever run into Chris Barber?
No. Only on no, I never ran into Chris.
Okay.
But
and he never phoned you either.
He was just a I understand what he was doing.
What's that?
And that was to try to gather support and bring more people in and all that other stuff.
But he never ever phoned you either.
No. It was just through text there that I sent him an email, told him to knock it off, or they were coming looking for him. I already knew they were going to come get him. It's just a fact of life. You don't piss off. One thing you don't do is embarrass the cops. You don't piss them off. And the other one is you don't embarrass the politicians or our mayor or our chief of police. Okay. In any town. Because if you don't have the support of the town that you're in, then you're done. You're done completely. You just can't come in and occupy and say, fuck you, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Right. Okay.
You just can't. You can't do it because if you don't have the public support, you cannot win your fight.
Now, this field that you were talking about, he shoveled off a field, right?
Sorry?
The farmer that was near Empire, he shoveled off his field.
Yeah.
Okay. How many trucks could you have put in there?
A couple hundred. It was a big field.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was a big field. I mean, they just, the farmer gave it up for free.
How many trucks actually went in there? Any?
I think there was only 10 or 15.
10 or 15 trucks. Okay. So it was accessible.
Yeah, it was. Like they had a great plan, but the problem, like they had a great idea. They got it together. The problem is they got in over their head once they started rolling. And I don't know if it was the money or the glory or what the hell it was. But when they got here, they had no clue what they were going to do once they got everybody here. Okay. And that's the problem is that, you got to have a plan. When I do these big shutdowns that I do, I have a plan from day one to the end day, and it includes everybody. You don't scream and yell and I get why they had the FU trailer there for Trudeau. I get it. It's a protest. But what makes you think he's going to come out and talk to you when you have that trailer sitting there? I get it. I enjoy seeing that trailer.
Yeah.
But as a leader, I'd have to say, get the thing out of here because we need to first get him to the table. If you can't get him to the table, then he's going to remove you from the world. Okay. And he did, and that's because they showed him no respect or his liberal government or any of the other parties.
What was your impression of Tamara Leach when you met her?
She was excited. She was all wound up and everything else. But I also, before I met her, I said, "So what's your mandate?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you got to have something in writing. You know, what are you fighting for?" Nobody seems to know.
Mm.
The night that they got here is the night I got the mandate. That was when I took it up there.
Mm.
And then I said, "Okay, now I understand what you're fighting for."
Mm.
Okay. But I said, you can't go in and just park. You know, there's a lot of demonstrations that go on here in Canada and big ones, but they leave at the end of the day. Then they come back the next day. Okay. They just don't come and stay. You
Mm.
can protest all you want. We still have the right to protest, and we do within reason.
Mm.
Okay. Their protest went from a protest of the mandates, and then that it turned into where they were now infringing on other people's rights.
Mm.
The right to sleep all night without firecrackers going off, without horns honking, all that stuff. Now you've just pissed off the whole downtown core.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen? This is what happened. I told them, I said, stop this bullshit, because if you don't stop it, they will. And they did.
Mm.
And unfortunately, they were all warned this was coming down the pike.
Mm.
And if you're not there to talk or to negotiate or to get some kind of resolve, it's never going to work.
Mm.
All these people got put in harm's way because these three leaders did not have a clue of what they were doing. They did not know the process. There's a process to protesting. There is a process on how to get to talk to people and bring it to the table without them fearing you're just going to rip them a new one.
Mm.
That's not what they're there for.
Mm.
I've gone into very high level meetings in the transportation industry. I treat them with respect. Now, Minister of Transport in New Brunswick, this is so funny. He tells me I'm late for a meeting. I looked him square. He was at one end of the table. I was at the other end. I looked him square in the eye and I said, "Listen, I know more important people than you, and I've never been late for a meeting in my life."
Mm.
And everybody in their chairs just stunk. I'm going, I stand up for myself. I won't take your bullshit. I said, here's the piece of paper that says, hey, this was the time the meeting was to start. I'm 10 minutes early.
Mm.
Well, he says, in my PDA, it says this. And I said, I don't care what it says in your PDA. And I says, your assistant that wrote this, look at him. He's smiling. He thinks this is funny. He's just made you look like a complete ass. No, it's true. It's what I told him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't hold back. I call it the way I see it. And if you're going to come after me, make sure you got your shit straight. Because if you don't, you know, I've said a lot of stuff out here, and I've called a lot of people out on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not once have I ever been sued by them. Why? Because they know I'm telling the truth, and they know I don't say anything I can't back up in writing.
Right.
You know? And unfortunately, this group had a great idea. Man.
I know.
They did. They had a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they got overwhelmed. I believe they got overwhelmed and then didn't know what to do once they got all the trucks parked. They just pissed off everybody.
Well, my big question is why would you not? This is where this is the first video, because why would you turn down a professional?
Yeah.
That's willing to help you for free. Why would you turn down a professional that had ties with the government? You told them you were a lobbyist and all the rest of it. Okay.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a professional. I mean, as far as logistics go.
Polyev is my MP.
Hey?
Polyev is my MP.
Oh, Paul, he was your inside guy?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Polyev was your inside guy.
Yes.
Oh my fuck.
Along with some liberal members too, who like me for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
Normally I don't give them a reason to like me.
So if you were going to deal with the government, which that's who you would be talking to.
I had 2 NDPs, 3 liberals, and a bunch of conservatives that were interested in listening to what they had to say.
And they completely shut it down on the first day they met you. Oh my fucking God. Sorry about my language. But
No,
holy
I mean,
shit.
Maybe you didn't know me from a hole in the ground, but you know what? All you had to do is just make some phone calls. Check the internet.
Mm.
I've run some of the biggest shutdowns in this country, and not once. Well, okay, I have to go back. I did breach a court order by not removing 264 trucks off of Temback and Domtar's property. Okay, spent the weekend in jail, which was good because at that time I needed the rest. Hey, listen, I'd been going 6 days straight with no sleep. Okay, and I was tired.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep everything calm.
Yeah.
And talking with the mayor, talking with the MPPs, the police. I mean, keeping everything organized, right?
Yeah.
From the shelters to food. I mean, all that stuff. Now, when they brought me back in on Monday, and it was hard to get any sleep, everybody kept coming to visit me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, okay. You go out and you tell people, this is what I'm doing. I'm sleeping. Okay. I need the rest. So we go back into court on Monday. They charge me. I said, okay, let's talk to the prosecution. So I talked to the prosecution. I said, here's the deal. I'll plead guilty. I'll pay a $500 fine and then it'll be at $7.
Mm-hmm.
I got a year's probation. Then I had a suspended sentence added on top of that, which means if I keep my nose clean for a year, that comes off my record.
Wow.
Okay? But the reason why I pled guilty is because the cops, the mayor, everybody was getting excited because nobody had any control over me.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, let's give them a little bit of control so that they feel at ease.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, it just dropped the temperature right down.
Yeah, exactly. De-escalate.
I de-escalated it. I knew the cops wanted some power over me. I know that the city Timmins police wanted it, and they were afraid of things getting out of hand. And I said, okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
But all my shutdowns have been peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we use the trucks for the first couple of days. After that, we send them home. Okay, come back with your body.
One question here, one little thing here says, where is it here? So you're pissed, Peter, because you wanted to be their leader. Now,
no, I'm the guy.
Exactly. That's why I brought that question up. That's why I brought that question up, because that's not true.
No,
go ahead, explain that.
Okay, I offered my services.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to them to prove their case.
Yeah,
I have no part in this. The only thing that I was acting as an
logistics
lobbyist is to get you in the door.
Yeah, and logistics.
The door, that's up to you. I take a step back. I want nothing to do with it. I didn't want to be their leader. Yeah. I didn't know any of them. They didn't follow me. Okay, they followed you guys.
Mm-hmm.
For me to step in and do it now, nobody would follow me. I get that. I understand that 100%. Okay, it's like when I was out in New Brunswick, I had to deal with 7 different trucking associations throughout New Brunswick. Okay, the only thing that I did was set out the plan for them. They voted on the plan. Every member of all 700 guys had a vote on the plan as to how we were going to do this and how this was going to be. Okay,
yeah,
I'm just the guy presenting it.
Team effort.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't their leader, but when you get into the trucking issues, especially with trucking, nobody can stand up alone. Bill Wellman led these guys at GM, Ford, and Chrysler. Mm-hmm. He lost his 12 trucks, he lost his marriage, and he lost his home over it. Okay. Crazy. Nobody backed him. Yeah. Why? Because he's in the business. Mackey didn't like it, so they parked 12 of his trucks. You
Crazy.
lost them all. You
Yeah.
know, but since I'm not in the trucking industry, but I have 22 years of getting screwed by the best of them, I know how the system works.
Mhm.
So I know how to talk to corporate. I know how to talk to truckers, and I know how to talk to government.
Mhm.
And it took me 6 or 7 years to learn all this. Okay,
Mhm.
nobody taught me. I just flew by the seat of my pants.
Yeah. So basically, getting back to square one now, you're the professional. You presented yourself in a professional way because every time I've ever talked to you, you sound professional and everything.
Hmm?
Why do you think Tamara just turned it around and said what she did?
Maybe it's because she didn't know me or didn't thought I was trying to take it over, like I've been accused of. I didn't want to take it over. I just wanted to make sure everybody's safe and that you get in the door. That was my whole purpose. Is you needed a way to get in the door because right now you don't have it. You
And that's
didn't.
the way you explained it to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going, fine. I walked away. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to plead.
No, of course not. No, of course
I
not.
make my offer. You don't want it. I walk away. It's the same thing that I did with the loggers in Timmins. There's 264 guys paid me to get them a contract.
Mhm.
I got them their contract.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, this is what it's going to cost for me to keep this association going and to protect you guys.
Mhm.
And they said, oh, no, it's too much money. Fair enough. I said, I'm not going to argue with you. This is what I need. You don't want to pay it? No.
Yeah.
The guy that was working for me, Ron Lepin, decided he was going to take it over.
Okay.
And he's no longer in logging. He was a driver. Nobody will hire him. He ended up getting screwed by the drivers themselves. And you know it's a sad situation, but I wasn't going to beg. I never called them, told them. I said, hey, you need me? I'm here. I'll come back. But if not, not happening. So it's not about me. Unfortunately, I get tied up in this, but I'm the guy behind the scenes putting all the work together. Okay. I'm the guy doing the research, finding the facts, dealing with I spent 2 months learning the logging industry, and that is getting in a truck and going with them. Okay. It's the same thing when I was out west. I went out there. I actually went out on runs with the guys to see exactly what they were doing and how they were doing it, so we could see the safety concerns and this, that, and the other thing, right? Then I know what I'm talking about. It's not about me leading anybody.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you the information. Hey, if you want to hire somebody else to go do it, go do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less. Listen, when I took on the hours of service, nobody backed me. I was only there by myself. No, not one government official, not one group backed me, including MAD. They're the ones who said, yeah, sounds good. Drivers can drive 80 hours a week. Okay. You know, we're all driving around freaking drunk, but yet people driving drunk. And I'm going,
crazy.
You know, I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I don't support MAD anymore. After what they did at the hours of service, I thought, you know, you're just agreeing with the Canadian Trucking Alliance just to be in the government's good graces.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I never wanted to lead it. All I was willing to do was get them in the door. And you know, that's all I wanted was them to get in the door. I didn't want the cops to come after them. I knew they were coming. I mean, I saw the trailers rolling in. They were sitting at the RCMP depot almost 4 days before they actually used them. You know, the Quebec guys, I mean, holy jumping. Those Quebec guys are head thumpers, okay? Them not to lift a finger and not thump somebody, those people can thank their lucky stars.
Oh, yeah.
The Quebec guys don't screw around, man. They're in, they're squashing it, and they're out of there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Now, another thing, did you observe these trucks coming in and stuff? There was women and children with these trucks, weren't they?
And I'm okay with that. I was okay with that. I've had people come down and bring their kids, bring their wives. I got no issues with that.
Mm.
It's when it starts getting out of control and nobody's leading it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it was a big party on Wellington Street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where was Tamara? Where was Chris Barber? Pat King? They weren't there. Everybody else was just having a big old party,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
thinking this is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have been warned that, hey, this is not going to be fun.
It's not going to go the way you think.
No, you can't pull in and park on a street. It's
Mhm.
against the law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The cops will allow it for a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
Okay, before they will intervene. Like you've seen it down in Toronto where they go out and they block the QEW or downtown. It's only for a few hours.
Right.
You guys came in and just took over and occupied.
Mm-hmm. So it
Okay.
became more than a protest now.
Absolutely. To me, it became an occupation.
Mm-hmm.
And yet nobody wanted to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not at that point. No.
No, because they said, screw you.
They had the big.
We're not talking to you. Okay.
had-
Well, then you know what? See ya.
Yeah. They had the big "fuck you" Trudeau truck out there, and
And I'm
all
going,
the
I love the trailer. I
did
love
too.
what it stands for.
I did too.
But it was the wrong message to
Yeah,
send to have
exactly.
somebody come out and talk to you.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
when nobody came out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Disrespected them right off the bat.
Yeah.
So if they did it to me, I'd say, you're SOL, buddy.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're
So-
just going to pick up the phone. We're going to call the cops, the RCMP, everybody in, and we're just going to move you.
Yeah.
Legally, could they do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
So let's
street.
tie this up a little bit. We're running into 6:53 here. Peter, I what's your final thoughts on this? What do you think?
Well, from the information that I have learned, okay, from you and behind the scenes that'll come out in other shows,
Mm-hmm.
they had a good plan. They started out with a good plan. Somewhere down the line, they got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
The three leaders got in over their head and refused any help. They refused to talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, then why did you come here?
Mm-hmm.
You came here to protest, which means if you're protesting, then you've got to have information as to what you're protesting about.
Mm-hmm.
But, she didn't know me from a hole in the ground, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
All she had to do is make some phone calls. Could have called Pierre. She could have called a bunch of people in Parliament. I could have given them the numbers and said, here, talk to them.
Well, even if I looked up your stuff on Google, it comes right up.
Yeah.
It's right there. Yeah, professional lobbyist.
Because one of the idiots in Transport Canada
Yeah.
hung up on me.
Yeah.
So I closed the port within 6 hours, and I was on a flight the next day to force the minister to come out and talk to me.
Another thing was that they were already notified. Chris Barber was in constant constant talks with Tamara before they got to Ottawa.
Yeah.
I had talked to Chris Barber on the phone extensively to have you at that table. Okay. So it wasn't like they couldn't have done a little research on this. Okay. Also, Pat King was notified. Okay. Before they got to Ottawa. Okay. So it wasn't like you were just coming out of the blue here.
No,
Okay.
I have a track record. I mean, and I'm going, okay, I didn't want to lead.
Yeah.
I'll get you in the door, and that's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I'll get you in, because you have good information, okay, and you have a possible case. And I even told Tamara, I said, why don't you file an injunction? That would stop it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That told me that you're not here to solve this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're only here to pick a fight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they rolled right into Trudeau's bullshit.
Absolutely.
That's what they did.
Let me put it to you this way. They gave him all the ammunition he needed to stop it. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Why? Because they say they're here to protest against the jab, but we don't hear anything about it.
So in your professional opinion, were they professional enough to handle what they had?
Oh Lord, no, they were way over their heads. Way over their heads. And what I don't understand is all the lawyers that they had around them, why the lawyers didn't do this. I'm not a lawyer. Lord knows I don't like to be swore at.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll take on a lawyer anytime, but I'm not a lawyer. I know enough to get my ass out of jail. I know enough, because I do my research. You know what I mean? I know what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And I have that information handy. But I try not to use it. I try to make friends with everybody and say, okay, listen, we've got to solve this because this is not going away. Okay. So when you don't talk, it's like Doug Ford said, you come to the table, we've got to talk. We have to negotiate this. You just can't slam the crap out of us because we're going to retaliate. Well, when you show up and start calling them names and all that stuff and F you and this, that, and the other thing.
That's not going to go over so good.
No, he has a right also. You disrespect me, I don't have to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he used.
Exactly.
You're disrespecting me.
They gave him ammunition like
oh God, yes.
I mean, it was I watched it. It was just
they gave him all the ammunition he needed. And I told Pat King in a message, I said, listen, they're recording this shit.
Oh,
said, don't think they're not recording this. They're going to use this against you in court.
Yeah.
And he laughed.
They did.
Pat King laughed. And I thought, okay, if you think this is funny and you think you can get away with this, have at her.
Yeah.
I know for a fact you've pissed off the wrong people.
Yeah.
You pissed off the courts, you pissed off Parliament, you pissed off the city police, you pissed off the mayor, you pissed the city population off. You pissed everybody off that you possibly could.
Yeah, okay? No shit. Yeah,
and then
no
you
shit.
expect them to treat you nice.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
No.
There was no game. There was a plan to come here and raise shit. That's all the plan was. And it hurts me because the truckers got involved.
Yeah, well, that's where we all took a stand on it. I mean, that was
truckers all got a black eye. They got their trucks busted up. They got all this shit. Where's Tamara and Pat King and Chris Barber? I heard.
Exactly.
Now this is what I'm told.
Yeah.
She got $1 million put into her account.
That's right.
Where did it all go?
Exactly.
How come nobody?
That's coming out in another show.
And I'm sitting here going,
yeah. It's unbelievable.
Civil suit against all the people that followed you, and you left them high and dry.
Yep, exactly.
Fend for themselves after you were the leaders and screwed it up.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Never. I've never had any of my guys do that. Okay. I've never left any of my guys high and dry. Every shutdown that I have done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
Has been successful, and we've gotten what we wanted.
Yeah.
And I tell the guys, if this is not what you want, let me go. I'll go back to the table.
Yeah.
And I never voted on this stuff.
Yeah.
I had a vote. You write yay or nay on it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just
anyway, Peter. We're at 7:00 now. We started a little later than what we should have, but
sorry about that.
I'll give you the last word on. I'll do some more, a little bit more, but I mean, I'm going to give you the last word. What's your final thoughts on?
Well, it hurts my heart that it didn't work, but like I said before, when you get in over your head and you have no idea what you're doing or how to solve the issue, then that's on you guys, you know. And help was there,
Yeah.
and you turned it down flat.
Yeah.
You know, you could have taken on me for a few days to see what I could do.
Mhm.
You know, but no, you turned me down flat. Nobody
Yeah,
said
they
I
didn't even
wasn't
give you a
needed.
chance.
I'm going. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
And that's why I told the cops, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
not. I have no intentions of getting involved because these
Yeah.
clowns don't have a clue what they're doing.
Yeah, they didn't even give you a shake of the chance or anything.
No,
It
no.
was
And like
like
I said, the
wham
cops
bam.
came knocking, and I just said, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, they're unorganized. They have no clue. They didn't call anybody. They didn't do any prep work before they got here.
Right.
You have to.
Yeah. Do
You
your
have,
homework.
you have to do your
Oh
prep.
yeah.
You
It
have
was
to
a massive
contact everybody.
endeavor to get everybody there. You should be doing your homework. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Oh
know,
yeah, definitely.
and they had the doctors here.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
why didn't you use them?
Yeah. Well, they did halfway through, but they didn't do it properly.
No.
No.
They needed to be in front of the MPs
Mhm. Yeah.
spouting their case,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? And if it was up to me, I would have sent it to every MP there so that they had it.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, no questions asked. We sent it to you. Now the population can question you on it because you
Yeah.
all have the information.
Yeah.
The other point that I'm going to bring up is under federal law, in order for that jab to work across this country or any law across this country,
Mhm.
we have 13 different countries under the flag of Canada. The in order for a law to pass at the federal level, every province must agree. If one province doesn't agree, it's done. That can't be enforced across Canada. Oh, did we run long? Hello? I guess we ran long. Later.